afternoon. Welcome to our series of informative webinars to help you learn, grow, and succeed in global and local markets. Our special guest today is Professor Michael McCarthy. We're thankful to University Anna G. Mendez for sponsoring and hosting these events. One of our global sponsors, a great university with many years in the market, but also a global leader in bilingual education. So we're going to bring on the stage our special guest. We're going to be discussing a very important topic, especially during this post in we're still in this pandemic, so it's a very important topic. Applying for jobs, what's going on in the marketplace, unemployment, and at the same time, we have a challenge with many businesses finding employees. So these are extremely important topics for people that are looking for a job, that are part of the downsizing and they have been left without work. So we have some great tools and information for you. Uh, for example, we have several programs for 2022 from the Global Trade Chamber that are going to help people learn, promote themselves, tell their story, and connect both in the US but across the world. Our two magazines that are digital, one is the Global Trade Chamber magazine that's distributed monthly across the globe with great feature articles, information, news. That is a very important tool to keep you up to date on what's going on in many industries and learn about leaders that are making an impact in their communities. And the other one is the Successful Women in Business magazine that is published every week. And again, it features a tremendous successful women that are making a difference in the world. It has great stories of inspiration, motivation, and education for women that are either starting in the workplace, they're starting their own business, or looking for tools to succeed in business across the globe. So these are two of the projects and tools that you have to promote yourself. Another thing is that you should comment on the chat with information that you would like to be answered by the experts. So please keep an eye on the chat and send us information to help you learn more. And the other great thing that we're doing is our GTC TV. We now have GTC TV channel on many platforms, including Roku and YouTube, where we have shows that people present and interview people on many industries, and you too can have a show on our GTC TV channel. That's fantastic. And you can learn more on our websites as you can check all the things that we're going to post here for you. And there's much more to come, events every month, in our annual convention this year, where we recognize 100 women from around the world that are amazing. And that will take place in London, England later on this year. So keep an eye on our websites and our magazines. Go and subscribe to the magazines and the YouTube channel so you're up to date on all of the activities for this year. So let me not hold up our special guest anymore. We're bringing to the stage Professor Michael McCarthy. Good morning, afternoon. I don't know what
We're
it is
going to
for
have
you.
to. It depends on what. If we were in London, it'd already be evening, right?
And if you're in Philippines, I think it's
It's already
24
tomorrow.
hours. Yeah,
It's already
so
tomorrow.
and this morning
It's
I
already
had a
tomorrow.
meeting with a lady in Italy,
Hmm.
and I had a meeting this morning with a lady in South Africa. So by this time, I don't know what time I'm on because it just keeps going. And Philippines. three countries we were
Three
talking to today.
and three different time zones. Yeah.
So now I'm back to Florida with the incredible and amazing Professor Michael McCarthy, international entrepreneur, great professor of many topics in major universities, and a great friend of the Global Trade Chamber and the 100 Successful Women, Dr. Professor McCarthy.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I think what we want to we want to discuss this post-pandemic, but the fact is, are we really post-pandemic? But there's a lot of things happen uh, through this situation, and we look at Mr. Fauci this morning said that, or last evening, I believe, said that everybody eventually will get this. So I thought I was not going to get it, taking all the, but got all my shots, and last week I tested positive. So
No,
yeah, so
unbelievable. So we got
someone
to
said if
change our.
Al, if you don't have a friend who's had COVID, then you don't have friends.
You don't have friends or
You
family.
don't have a friend. Everybody
If
had
you
it.
don't have a family member that has COVID, you don't have family.
That's right, probably.
We're done. I remember
So,
years ago that the only
uh-huh.
people that got shots were dogs. So now all of us have to get shots. I don't get it.
I've always got my flu shots, but
Oh,
this is we've got all, and plus the booster,
speak
and
about dogs.
speaking of dogs, yes, it's but she got all her shots, so we're okay
Okay.
with her. Yeah.
Is she going to be
So
a part of the show?
so may yeah, intermittently.
And then
So
that
anyways,
commentator.
it's the question is, we're really post pandemic, but it looks like it's and
It's not
neither
postponed.
neither one of us are medical people, but it looks like this one is replacing the other. There's almost no delta, and then this other one that's in France right now, which is very very light. It's a TUH, I believe. It's
No,
one of the new
no
ones.
spread.
Anyways, it's extremely contagious, but it's basically a common cold.
None of it.
It's like what we've had every year for years,
Unbelievable.
right? So, anyways, but it does what it has is it's caused a great, and this we're going to talk a little bit about. Let's see if I can get this to move down here. Uh, it's supposed. There we go. I'm trying to get it
To wake up.
yeah, I'm trying to get it to move down here. Maria Renee, help here. Who's in charge of this? Can I get it to move down?
Do you have control or do we have control of the presentation?
That's why I just wasn't too sure here.
I think you should be able to flip it.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me stop for a second here and go back to. I wanted to share screen here. I'm sorry. Share screen, and I should be able to.
Well, you're back on here, so that's a good
Yeah, but I'm just trying to get it to move down to the next slide. That's
thing. It's
not.
not changing the slides.
Let me stop for a second. Go back over here to the actual show. Sorry about this, folks. We have a little bit of technical difficulties here.
And the point is that we have a real weird conflict here where we have companies that say they can't find employees.
All right, and the people that can't find jobs.
And people that can't find jobs. So this is, I never
Right.
heard this in my life. So this is
It
a
is
real
it is
challenge
kind of
for-
strange, and it happens to do with what kind of jobs people are actually looking for. And okay, so you and I are back up here.
Yeah, we're back
I'm
on.
sharing screen. I can see my screen.
That's good.
Share.
So maybe you can read it instead of showing it.
Well, I would like to, because I got some really neat graphs in here that I wanted to show. Have we lost our technical support here? Maria Renee has.
Well, we can see the PowerPoint, but you have control.
Yeah, but I can't. I'm trying to get it to move forward here.
It's not. Is it moving on your computer?
No.
That's
So let me go back to the
we
PowerPoint.
don't have the PowerPoint control here on our end. It's on your end.
Let me stop sharing.
So
Get it back
this is
up. Yeah, just hold on a second here. But what I wanted to, I think I probably opened the wrong one. Now I got to go back to you, and I got to share again.
oh, I see them on the left. I see the slides. So
Okay. Oh! I see the little thing here. I think. Okay.
so there's two things
Mm.
that we cannot control right now. It's your PowerPoint and COVID. I don't know which one first.
That's right. Okay. So let me let's go the other way, which is just as good as okay. One of the things that I was looking at, and you can I think you can see this quite well here. Whoop, go over this way. We have four in the month of August of last year. This is from the Department of Labor and Statistics, right?
Yes.
We have 4 months of 4.3 million people that quit their job. Now in July, there we go. In July, we had 4 million people quit their job,
Wow.
resigned. This is not people being laid
Right.
off. There we go.
Good job in pandemic.
All right. Okay. So let's move down. Who's ever if
Opportunity.
who's
Okay.
ever in control? Let's move down. Okay. This is if you want to jump to this for a second. I was going to do this at the end, but we were talking about where people get their jobs, and
Yes. This is
most
from
of the
our
times, and I think you were fantastic with me because many people may not realize this that I'm kind of a foreigner in my own country. I lived overseas uh, more than half of my life, and when I came back, one of the people that someone recommended me to was Al Otero.
Oh, who's that? Oh.
Somebody, I see. I don't remember who, but somebody recommended me, and you were extremely um, generous in helping me with contacts, with direct contacts. And the truth of it is, and most of my students, because I teach HR for Anna Mendez, among other topics. And I'll ask the students, well, when you get your degree, where are you going to work? Where are you going to get your job? Now, many of them say, well, I'm going to stay with my own employer. They're going to promote me. Well, that's great. Once I get my degree. But the others, you go, well, we're going to go on Monster. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. And I said, well, that's great. But if you think about it, in the United States, for as much as we have all these computer databases, that 75% of jobs are because you know somebody. Not necessarily about influence, but that you get a job because you know someone, and they say, "Hey," I call up and say, "Al, I'm tired of my other job, or they just shut down, or they went bankrupt, or whatever," and you kind of know my skill set, and I'm out looking if you could tell me what do you think, and you go, "Hey, I got a place for you over here," or that's 75% of the jobs.
Yeah, it's either through their first connections in the
First
network
connection.
or
First
second
connection.
or third. Because I had people that called somebody and they refer them to
That's
somebody else.
that's
So
that's
in
another
most,
50. That's another 15% over here. If you can see the pie, the red,
yep,
the red 15%. So if you take 15 plus 75, you got 90%. So strangely enough, 90% of jobs they may be advertised, but they might go to someone that somebody knows.
that's a
Maybe it's
fact.
if it's a classmate or somebody through networking. You're the network king, right? You have thousands of people on your network. I remember
Just a few.
just a few, and so that's very, very, very important to keep and maintain networks. Now, for people who want to change jobs, which is one of the things we'll be talking about here, you have to figure out how do you get in there. So if you're in the HR, I will ask students, are you members of SHRM? Now, what's SHRM? When there's blank faces, I go, how can you be going into the industry as your career and not know who SHRM is? SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Management. It's a huge organization in the United States for professional HR people. So you've got to be in that. If you're there's a drivers association, or there's an accountants association, or there's a legal association.
Exactly.
If there's whatever there is, you got to go out and hobnob with those people.
Yep.
and you've got a network. Like I say, well, so you're in HR. So when you graduate, who do you think goes to the Christmas dinner for Sherm in Miami? Maybe the director of HR for FedEx, or maybe for the guy from Carnival, people who run Carnival lines, or
That's right.
wow, those are people who you want to know. They may not give you a job, but maybe they may be in that 15%. They're going to say, hey, but I know Al Otero, he's looking for somebody. Or as you once said, and I believe this is the greatest, I'm using you as an example because I think you're great at this, is that when I call this third party, I first, before I do that, I say, Al, can I use your name? And the reason is that, as you said, it'll probably just be left in voicemail. But if it's a person they know, they'll probably call me back. But
It's a, it's
if it's I'm just a nobody, they're not probably going to call me back. But if I say, well, Al asked, suggested that I call you, and I followed that. I remember once I kept track. I followed it 7 levels down
imagine.
from where I started off. So on that 7th person, I say, are you a friend of so? No, but I know him. How do you know him? I know him through so and so. And they go, really?
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
what I
That's
did,
you've got a network, and that's where your jobs are. Are
yep,
there now even now? Let's go through another thing. Here's an ad. I seen an ad on the internet for the chamber. Now, before I put in my request, I'm going to call Maria Renee, or I'm going to call you or somebody else that works at the chamber. Say, hey, they're looking. I understand you guys are looking for somebody for this, and maybe I'm moved to the top of the pile. And maybe I'm not. Or I find out, that's really not the job that it says it is. I want to go somewhere else, right? So
but
that's
you
very, very
increase the
important.
chances. All
I
you're doing
increase
is
the
increasing the
chances.
chances.
I start
Looking
looking
for a
in there.
job, it's a
Hmm.
science. It's a science.
And it's a job, to itself.
It's
People
a
have to
job to
dedicate
yourself, and
time
you
to it.
have to have a plan, and you have to have coaching to do it right. One way that we teach people at the networking seminars is we tell them, call the president's office and say you're looking for a job in this department. So the secretary is going to say, call this person in this department
Yeah.
and talk to them. But
Excellent.
when you talk to them, you say, I was referred by the president's office to talk to you.
So they
Always,
pay attention.
always. So, oh,
Always.
one moment, Mr. Otero. Let me put you in touch. So when I call people, I always start at the president's office, and they tell me who to call, and I never even talk to the president. But the fact that his office referred me, I turn it around and I say, the president's office referred me to you because I have some great talent that you might be able to use. Things like that. It's the way you present yourself. The other thing, just to piggyback on that, is
Hmm.
it's the same principle for sales. I want to
Yeah.
present a product to a company, or I have a problem that I need to resolve. And I did this. I called the president's office of QuickBooks somewhere in the world that I found through LinkedIn.
Hmm.
The lady actually got me to his email. And the same day, the president himself sent me an email and told me he had talked to the vice president of customer service and she would call me within 24 hours. But
Just
that
by
takes
using that technique.
just by using the technique. I said, I'm an unhappy customer. I run a chamber of commerce and I want to talk to the president. So she said, I'm going to give him the message. And he actually responded by email and solved the problem because I wasn't afraid. Why am I going to be afraid of a $7 billion company president? What the heck?
The worst thing they can do is hang up on you.
Exactly. The same thing you're
And you're in
looking
the
for a
same
job.
situation you were as we were before, right? Right.
Exactly. So it does work if you reverse the process. Start at the top and look down. And if you don't say you're looking for a specific job, so I'm
No.
looking for a position in this specific, whether it's IT or whatever it is, and you call the president. Usually the secretaries are the nicest people because they represent the president.
Right.
So I think it's a great way to open the door.
Well, I mean, there's that you have a whole seminar on networking, right? That the chamber does, but
Yes.
it's worthwhile. Anybody out there should think of taking this. That there's so many ways of following up on networking, of sorting. Probably, I don't have. I guess I have one here. by my computer. One of the things that I do, and I don't know, maybe it was you who taught me this. This is a business card. So when you give me your business card, I go, oh, gee, thanks, Al. This is really good. Al, and now what I've done is I bent the corner, right?
Exactly. I taught you that.
You taught me that.
Yeah.
And
You
so
owe
he
me
bent the
20
corner.
bucks. You owe me $20 for that one.
I'll put it on the bill.
But
Yeah, but it's a great way to code stuff. And I know if I'm going to invite you to lunch, if I'm going to send you a catalog, if I'm going to do this, it was a
and there's
great,
four
great, great.
corners. So
Four
you
corners.
have each corner for a different thing. I want to follow up. They're a hot lead, a medium lead, or when they walk away, I tear it up and throw it behind me. I don't want anything to do with this person. And one incredible point that somebody posted is that today, after all the technology that's out there and everything that we know from our perspective, they're still sending resumes and waiting for somebody to call them.
Yeah.
So they're so far behind, and that's due to lack of education. People are not being coached at any level to be effective in finding and looking for jobs. So you get you're the hiring person and you get 100 resumes, and somebody calls you, hey, I know my friend's looking for a job and I
Yeah.
recommend it. Those resumes go in the trash, they never even look at them.
I had heard that people spend like 30 seconds. Not one at one point I actually did recruiting. I don't remember when I did that, but I spent some time recruiting for companies in Miami.
Yeah.
And I would get maybe per day 120, 150 resumes. And it was my part-time gig. So I would come home, I get home like at 8 o'clock. I'd want to be in bed by 11. So you think how much time was I spending? 30 seconds, maybe less. And I just, oh, look, okay, I have my requirements for the job. I look, no, gone. Oh, maybe. So I put in a maybe pile. So maybe I come up with 20. Then I go through the maybe pile. I come up with 6 or 7 that are worth interviewing that I think. So you spend hours crafting that resume, and it's just not, that's not the
Let's
way it
move
works.
to
Okay.
another topic, which is very important. Is why do you feel, Professor McCarthy, that some industries are facing shortages in labor, and some are not even opening? I went to a Wendy's and they said we only have drive-through because we can't find employees, and that went on for a couple of weeks. It is unbelievable. Why is that?
There's I went to a Starbucks over in Hollywood, and it was closed. And why is this closed? Well, they only open for breakfast. A Starbucks, they're only open at breakfast?
Unbelievable. Why
Because
is
they don't have staff. Well, first of all, there's one of the results of the pandemic has been that we've got two groups of people, and there's a little chart here on that. But we've got two groups of people. We've got the people who are on hourly, or rather, very very low wage, and work maybe a part-time gig, but maybe they're full-time. They may be single moms, single dads, and you start looking at that, and they go, gee, I've been home. Maybe I got an employment. I guess time to think. There we go. This is thank you. This is the amount of people that we looked at. You just look at May, and this is when, think about this. This is when the stimulus monies were ending.
Exactly.
You would have thought that they would have been quitting before. So there's no looking at, oh, I'm going to get extra money because, and remember, if you resign, you're not going to be picking up unemployment.
No, you're not. And the people that were picking up unemployment, they're shutting that off too.
Right. So this is unusual. This peak in the next graph, you'll see, I think it's 2.9% of the workforce. We can go down next to the next graph. 2.9% of the workforce in August of last year quit. That's the highest in 20 years.
Wow.
That's amazing. I mean, that's almost one in. Well, that's 3. Say it's 3%. So if you had 100 employees, you got 3 that just walked out. And they're walking out for I've got a whole little list of reasons, but people that were, I've got some stats here. I think farther, next one's down. Like 55%. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, thank you very much. You're doing a wonderful job here. I appreciate it.
I'm doing a great job. I'm not
you're doing that. Okay, so we're looking at 55%. This is a study done back in July, just before we seen that pickup.
Yeah.
55% of workers were looking at new jobs for 2021. And there's a work culture that we've seen that I've noticed, especially with the phones, that people are they're available 24/7 practically, right? They're doing work on their phones at home. They're doing
Yes.
this is like stressing, that the workplace has invaded your personal
Your
space,
home. There's
and
no
it's just,
separation.
and it's irritating. And it's like you're going, Al, do you really have to answer this, Al? I mean, can't they wait until tomorrow? Um, so it just it intervenes tremendously. And since people were home and they weren't going out, they were stuck doing this. And there's an expectation that these people, even they may be hourly, may be available.
It's
So
amazing.
they and you think of a lot of these hourly positions when we look at. I have an example of in when I was looking through information of a lady who was a barmaid, in the bartender, barmaid, and she said, with my kids, she's got 3 kids, her husband, and her husband works also in the industry. You're going, well, I'm worried about if I'm going to work today that the boss is going to be upset with what I'm doing, and I'm out.
Mm.
There's no stability, and I'm working it's like 60 hours, and I'm not getting what I need, right? So she quit. Her brother-in-law said to her, "Hey, why don't you go down to the docks?"
Wow.
And she became a
Docking.
a dock worker.
Wow.
And what does she do? I mean, she drives cars on and off ships.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and she makes twice as much money. She's got health insurance. She's got a real vacation, which you weren't going to get in the bar. You won't even get a day off. I mean, this is in that lower end. You have the problem of, oh, my kid's sick and I can't go to work. Well, you don't have time off.
There's
So
no
they're
there's
upset
no
with you because you
food.
didn't go to work, right? Because they have to do whatever, and you lose a day pay, and you start getting on the bad side of whoever's running the operation. So that's we also looked at 56% of respondents said they want adjustable working hours and would like to work remote.
Hmm.
That's that's quite a bit, and I
It is.
think we've people just think people have become more autonomous working from home. This is the more or less, though, not the hourly workers, but the other group of workers that are probably office types. They could be mid-level management, some kind of processors, whatever, but they have greater autonomy at home. I mean, you if you're going to do the Zoom, you've got your good shirt on, but you're wearing jeans and flip-flops or shorts or whatever, or pajamas,
Yeah, we don't have home phones anymore. It's all on the cell phone.
and
So
that's
you
all on
could be
cell phone.
sitting in the bathroom and you have to
Unfortunately,
seriously.
yes.
You have no
Unfortunately, yes.
privacy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So what that intervention, but it allowed them to have a little more autonomy at home. They can stop and make your own lunch or your breakfast or whatever, and you're making another coffee and you don't have. There are social pressures in the office that some people don't like. It could be where they are in a pecking order, where they're bullied or they are subject to certain things. And I'm at home. I'm okay here. So a lot of people don't want to go back to that.
They don't.
And there's a company in New York. It's a central offices for a brewery, and they actually called people back into the office. 20%
Wow.
of them basically said, "We don't want to go back. So fire us if you want, but we're not going back." And then other
Unbelievable.
people in this is the insane thing I thought was there were people in the office building who do Zoom meetings among themselves. Like there's 3 or 4 people in a conference room, and there's 4 people in the same building but on Zoom. And you kind of there's some people don't want that continued social interaction. So it's a very, very complex. But most people, I think, questioned about what their compensation was against what they were working for, and how happy they were at what they were doing. And as we know, like in New York State, in those places that from the very crowded city, very very like small apartments, traffic, everything expensive. People went up to Connecticut or upstate New York or wherever, and now they're out in the country in a small town, And when they're out of work, they're in a very nice environment versus this very, and New York City
And
is, well,
pressure,
like many of the cities.
expense,
Let's move on.
very expensive. Yeah. So this
Yeah.
it's the other
So we're
side
looking.
of the
Hmm.
the other side is the people that got let go because they were downsizing. And I think that creates a whole different dynamic where a lot of those people that were let go are either starting their own business or
Yes.
they're trying to find jobs in the same type of work, but it doesn't exist anymore because they did away with them. So they find jobs driving food around, delivering food.
Delivering
So
food. Yeah. They just
that's it's mind-boggling what's going on.
do kind of do whatever. But there's this slide that's up now is talking about you've got people. Something like 48% of people were rethinking their jobs. Okay, they're willing to move, and they'll move to another another industry or another section of the same industry. So they want if they had a chance to be retrained.
Mm.
So as you know, there's all kinds of certificate programs and there's
Yeah,
associate degree programs and these kind of things. And that's what if someone is looking to change a job, they might want to look at that as to what. And there's another, if it's an X-ray technician, how is it going to take him to be an X-ray technician? How long is that going to be? Or can I take this at night while I'm still doing my other job? You do some kind of sacrifice, maybe to get to that, so you don't leave one job before you go to the other.
no, and you
Maybe.
also have telemedicine, so people can do a lot on the
Amazing.
line. Yeah, it's
As you know, my
incredible.
daughter's a doctor. She questioned telemedicine because she said, I wanna be with the patient.
Exactly.
I wanna touch the patient. That's the way she was trained. And now she does telemedicine with me all the time or with my grandkids or wherever. She coordinates for Peace Corps, so she has 200 volunteers spread all over a country, and she does it, takes care of on their cell phones.
That's
Amazing.
amazing.
Huh? So this is the last thing. I think there's that people agree. Of course, we've got this pandemic has given more control over deciding the direction of my career. 50% agree, 34% disagree, and the others have no idea what they want to do.
They're lost,
But they're lost. But it's
waiting
not.
for the
It's
next stimulus
waiting
check.
for the next stimulus check. But you've got to realize that this is the lower end people kind of go look at this and go, and the income stream go, well, maybe I should look for something that's going to pay me more, like the lady
Yeah,
who becomes a stevedore, or not a stevedore, but a dock worker.
yeah.
Um, if I didn't prepare when I had a chance, maybe for circumstances, and now I've got to make the jump, and they'll try to jump into something that's more appropriate. And office work, I've got office workers have this that maybe my job was boring and repetitive, and I wanna move on. I've got a list of. If we can do that, I think the next slide, if we can go to movement, there we go.
Oh,
So I want to
beautiful.
talk about these topics. These are pretty much, it's kind of like reasons why people leave their job. Um, so we have low pay. So some people just won't go back for the ridiculous. I mean,
Minimum wage.
people eight. Well, even yeah. Well, people like here, I see people at $8, $9 an hour. What is that?
Yeah,
What are you going to do with $9 an hour after taxes? Not
exactly.
much.
Yeah.
So it may be for some high school kid that wants the part time, but still even at that, I
They're
guess
not
what
taking the
they're
jobs.
at 15. What
Imagine.
Burger King is at 15. I seen it at 25. McDonald's at $25 an hour.
Wow.
Not here, but in another state, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that this low pay kind of has set people into to thinking of why they want to leave. And I'm sorry, I'm just looking for. I had some notes on this.
Too much stress.
Yeah, the stress is one of our things in there. It's a little farther down on the list, but lacking meaningful work. Some people just figure that what they're doing is not. It just doesn't mean anything. It's
There's
not.
no future. There's no future in a lot of this
There's
jobs.
no future. There's no way of moving. There's no advancement. Like here we say, there's no
No,
career advancement,
no.
or maybe there isn't a career. I mean, how far can you go? Especially if you're in a small company and the manager's the nephew of the owner,
You're not going anywhere.
they're not going anywhere. So you might as well, little little offices, little things are they're have a lot of good things about them, but they also have, where do you go from here?
Exactly. That's huge.
So, yeah, too much stress. I mean, you've had I know my youngest son had the job, and he got to the point where he just didn't want to get up in the morning
That's bad.
because the because of the systems were bad. Then the supervisor was terrible. His chances, he had missed a couple of chances for advancement, and he was just. So I'm now
So,
he's working for a small office of like there's 4 people there. He's king, and
yeah.
he's very happy. He's happy to go to work. I haven't seen him this happy in his life, right? So it's
Wow.
how do you really want to spend your health, because that's what's happening under stress, your health, and then you're a bear at home and with your kids and with everything. Just nothing nothing is good when you're stressed
Nothing.
continuously, right?
But all this came out in the open because of the COVID, because people just they
They were
figured this is it. This is my life, and
is
now
it true? Yeah, what am I doing? What am I doing, right?
they woke
Yeah,
them up. They woke a lot of
it
people
was
up.
a
That
was a
they don't have,
trigger. It was
yeah,
a trigger that set
yeah,
this off. So we had lack of career advancement, and then we have this scheduling flexibility. The workforce is the latest statistic, I don't know, but it's probably over 55%. In some cases, 64%. I've seen are women, and are they single moms? We don't know,
we don't know.
but the fact that they may be responsible for childcare at some point means that you want more flexibility.
Absolutely.
So you've
That's
got
it.
to look for something like, a lot of these online deals. If you've seen there's customer service online, I think Southwestern has that. A couple other companies where I think even Amazon now has you work from home but customer service.
Got it.
So you're locked into the system when you're scheduled, I guess, or when sometimes with Southwest or Southwestern Airlines, or whatever the airline is, they have a lot of college students. And between classes, it sits in a coffee shop, logs on, does a few calls, logs off, goes to the next class, comes out of the next class, sits in the
Amazing.
library, does some, yeah. So that kind of the internet has given a lot of additional flexibility, and there's jobs out there that now provide that. So this is really good. Um, so the reason that there's a shortage is that people don't want to go back to this malaise of stress, meaningless work. Um, they
Toxic work environment. That's very important.
yeah, the toxic work environment. It could be toxic because somebody's harassing you. It could be toxic for it's just there's just
Just the type of work it is.
yeah, it's just you
I had
can't.
one of my sons was working at a company that printed PC boards to install in boats.
Uh huh.
But he was working in a sweatshop with all this mags so the fumes wouldn't kill him.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
he was
truly
doing that
toxic.
8 hours a day. So he said, I can't take this toxic, literally toxic,
Toxic
with the
environment
fumes. It was like one of those printers now that they
that prints
make
the
everything.
circuits. Uh huh.
Yeah. So the machine was like a printer, but it was with chemicals and stuff. So he got a job at Nova in HR, in the people that interview the students, and he's as happy as can be.
Happy. Yeah. Yeah.
Very happy. So the toxic environment, I know it's just could be any type of toxic.
Well, you look at there's job fulfillment, right? And without the meaningfulness of the job. And Bloomberg put out a few years ago. I don't have it to put up right now, but it had on one side it had earnings, and then it had the percentage of fulfillment, what how people felt about the job being. And of course, you had the guys that were the brain surgeon, FBI agent. Those people were they were way up there, good pays and satisfaction, but down on the pay scale, but high on satisfaction. One of the highest was the guys that run the water plant.
No way.
Yeah,
Incredible.
and they were in thirties and $40,000 range, and you're going, okay, well, $30,000, $40,000 in their high. they actually believed, and it's true, it is true, that what they do is well, just think of it. We all drank water today somehow, whether it was in coffee or yeah, and it was potable. If they weren't there, we
No,
thousands
we
of
couldn't
people would be
drink it.
sick, right? Kids would be dying,
Couldn't
right?
drink the water. Yep.
So actually, one of the students in Ana Mendez, I remember he was management guy in Miami-Dade water system, and he began to talk one day about the importance of his job, and he said, there's 1.5 million people drinking this water that we're processing,
Very
and he was just so
loved it.
loved it, and he
Yep.
was so concerned that his
Healthy.
job be done well and how important it was. So
Two more questions, because I want to move on to.
okay, go ahead.
There's so much to do.
Well, I just
Uh,
say, what do you want?
South
I think
Florida,
that the summary of that is, Al, do you want to be doing the job for 20 years that just makes you sick?
exactly, or
Yeah,
makes other people sick.
or makes other people sick? Like, yeah.
Now, one question that came up was South Florida. Why do you think people are moving out of South Florida to look for jobs elsewhere? One thing that comes to my mind is the cost of living and the housing in South Florida is
Yep.
ridiculous.
Yeah, two things. I think the stats I've seen is something in Miami in particular. As
Yes,
more and more people come, Miami keeps growing, and the pressure on living quarters. So nobody can live. You have to be like my son's a banker. Lives well. He lives 2 blocks away from Brickell. He can afford it, but can everybody else work? No. People are driving. Just think of what it costs you to drive in from the far west. Now you've got all those tolls and the time and the
and the
stress of getting
traffic
to
and
work.
the
Yeah,
gas. Yep,
yeah.
yep. So that's one reason why people are moving is the cost of living.
Well,
Uh,
when you're if we go away from remote, now people actually have to go to work again. You're going to go back to the stress and the cost of going, and just think of your clothing, of the time, the tolls, the wear and tear in your car. It all,
Absolutely.
yeah, you're not getting compensated for. So, at 40% of income goes to housing in Miami.
Imagine.
That's
Horrific.
excessive because most it should be around 20. I mean, the federal government has it when you're doing loans.
Yeah.
We used to look at like
20,
25%, maybe
yeah,
30% at the
yeah,
most of the total income would go to housing. It's too much, so they can't afford
too
it.
much. Another question
That
that came
question?
up is how and where to look for jobs now. We started the whole presentation on that.
When we started the presentation, we were talking about that. It's best to you have in your industry or in your trade, you're better off looking for people in that trade that you know before you start going outside. And I'm not saying don't spend an hour on Glassdoor, but you want to look through your friends first. Even as to, I would say, if I did my resume up again, I would send it to you, Al. And I go, look at this and tell me what you think. What should I take off? What should I add on? Should I make it shorter? Because I need somebody in this. And at the same time, you may say, "Hey, have you thought of coming over and working with us?" And that sometimes
Why
happens.
not?
Okay.
That's a great point, because one of the things that I say to people is look for what's available
Hmm.
on the platforms like Indeed or whatever it is.
Right.
And then look through your connections on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or people that work for that company. And that is a huge way of going.
Exactly.
If you grow your network on social media, whether they know you personally or not, you have a connection immediately because you're connected. And it's your friends that are going to at least talk to you and respond. So you say, "Oh, I understand there's a job here. Who would you recommend that I call to see if I qualify?" They're
Hmm.
going to answer you. That's what social media is. Creates
Yeah.
opportunities. So looking to grow your LinkedIn network is the least expensive and the most effective way to make connections. They can open the door for you.
Going back to what we said, if you're looking down the list and you see a certain job available and you know someone that works there, again, either use your social media or you make that direct contact and say, what do you know about this job? Um, is another way of finding that, right?
Yes,
That's what we talked about in the beginning. Mhm.
and your the people from your graduating classes from the university, they have this group that stays in touch. What do you call it? When you leave the university, this you can be part
Alumni,
of alumni.
alumni. Yeah,
All the universities all the time. You need to be pushing your alumni association to help other people in the association to find jobs.
right.
That was a great way to do it. And I think that another thing that they need to do, especially with the globalization, is that you may find online jobs in other countries that are looking for people that speak English and can promote or market or customer service. So looking for that is another very important thing, looking for global jobs. And there
Yeah,
are obviously some platforms to do that. Um, so you have to be creative. You have to go out of your comfort zone to find jobs and then build a network before you do. If you graduate from university, network while you're in high school. Forget waiting till you graduate to build a network that can help you find a
and
job.
maintain those contacts.
Maintain those contacts. And then
Yeah.
you tell them, let's connect on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever. And then when you, 3 years later, when you graduate, you have at least a starting point, I would think.
Mhm. What I've seen is there's especially if you're dealing, let's say Colombians, right? You're dealing with architects. Well, there's I understand there's association of architects from a specific school, right? The alumni, and they're alumni in Miami or in the U.S. And you can get into that. You get their list. You start looking at who's working in a company that I like to work for. And when you do that, the person that you're contacting, your alumni of the same school, knows what kind of training that you had. If you were an architect, they know what kind of training you had, and you know how. Yes, I would say, Al, I'm new here. We're still in the same school, but I'd like to know what are the barriers that you found. What should I do as I'm adapting to the country or the industry?
We have the magazine, the Successful Women magazine. We have the Global Trade Chamber business magazine. And people are actually talking about all these topics and helping people to be better at what they do and to look for ways to get a job. The other side of the coin is how does an employer find reliable people? The same way. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to call your contacts and say, who do you know that's available to do the job that I need done?
What?
Or they're going to post it on social media saying, I have a need for this person. And I respond if I have somebody. So you have to, as an
Right?
employer, be just as smart because putting an ad to get 100 resumes is not always the smartest thing to do.
No, no. Well, you can if you're actually if you're for me if you're recruiting, I would use somebody. I mean, we know people that will filter, and I'll say these are my
Exactly.
criteria. This is what I need. You deal with 100 people. I'll do it with 10 or 5 or whatever. I don't want to deal with, and you can really because you can spend a lot of administrative time looking for people that. And when there was just something going back a few slides that we didn't get a chance to look at is I think there's something that people confuse benefits and perks.
Yes,
So having perks like, oh gee, they bring it, we get donuts on Friday afternoon.
that's a
That's a
perk.
perk. Yeah. That they pay half of my medical insurance, or you look at Walmart, um, Starbucks, I think Chick-fil-A, and some other companies that if you're an employee, they pay part or all of your additional education, whether it's an
Yeah.
undergraduate degree or yeah, and Walmart covers books, covers lab
Wow.
fees, yeah,
So there's still
um,
companies that do that. That's
right.
amazing.
Now, there's
Yeah.
an industry. I think one of the industries that I know Anna Mendez had looked at for a while, and there's several schools that are doing that. Was in relation to pharmacy. You look at there's a deficit of 160,000 pharmacists,
Wow.
and most of the school, most like they had agreements with I think it was Walmart or CVS, and they just you got a student, they're studying pharmacy, we'll bring them on,
We have two
got a
minutes
job
left.
instantly.
Two
Oh,
minutes
good
left.
grief,
So this time flies when you're having fun, I'm telling you.
it does.
Give us a few tips, Professor Michael, on what to do 2022 to look for jobs.
I well, one of the things I would be conscious of is to do a 30-minute, what's called the elevator speech. I think you talked about that. Be able to say in 30 seconds, what are things that I can bring to the company or to the organization, That's
Good.
very, very important. And I'm going to emphasize that in any interview. Um, a simple resume, if you need a resume, it's going to be simple. Um, the other is we were just talking about using our existing network and grow your network. Look at the industry you want to move into or that you're in and make sure you're going to the networking functions and pick up names, meet people. Don't just stand in one spot, move around.
One thing
Move
that we
around.
realized this year was that everybody has a resume, but there might be more than one type of job that you may qualify
Oh,
for.
definitely.
So you should have several resumes. Some people are professors, some people are coaches, some people are teachers. So they have to have several resumes and send the one that's exactly for that job.
Well, one of the things that you have to be conscious of, if you have an ad in front of you or a job description, you want to go back to your resume and make sure you're using the key words that are
Exactly.
in there. And the reason is that what I would use go over these by hand, and a lot of us still do. But if it goes into a big system, into a big database, the database is going to pick you up based on those keywords. So when they're going in and searching for somebody who speaks Spanish, put in there, and speaks English, has a graduate degree, and something, put that in.
So they
And
scan all these resumes.
the computer will bring
Yeah.
out the top 100
Wow.
people or top
That's
50
good.
people or something, and they'll never actually look at the resume until they decide they want to look at that person. So you
Nice.
have to match the keywords of the ad or the job description. Make sure that's how you describe yourself in your resume.
And that's something new because before everybody had a standard resume, send it to everybody. Good
Right.
luck. It's like
Yeah. Good
fishing.
luck.
It's like fishing.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
whole new
I
world.
had a. I mean, I had a friend. She was the VP for a international bank, a one of the top 10 in those days, international bank. She sent out over 2,000 resumes of hers when she was looking for a job. She got
Unbelievable.
20 letters. She
We
only
have
got
to.
20 letters back. Don't tell me we have to
This is
go.
endless. We could go on for hours, Michael. What I want to do right now is give thanks to Anna G. Mendez University, one of the best universities that I know, because they really do prepare you to be a great employee in many areas, from medical, so many things. But they also have the best, and probably the biggest bilingual
Lingual.
curriculum in the world.
Yes.
And they've been doing this for how many years? Like 80 or something. That's a third generation
Yeah.
run university.
I
So
think it's that long,
largest,
yeah.
yeah, it's incredible. It's the largest private university in Puerto Rico that has, last time it was like 40,000 students worldwide. So
Somewhere
they're
over here.
helping people across the globe and they're hands on. Everybody in the university said for one purpose, to help you be the best employee you can be or the best teacher, because a lot of the students become teachers at the
That's
university.
true. 90 of my students have become teachers now.
It is amazing. So we're so grateful that we're partnered with Energy Mendez. And of course, Professor McCarthy is a professor at the Energy Mendez Incredible International Global
Since,
University.
since
And our CEO,
2007.
Maria Elena Davila, also is a professor at Energy
Professor there, right?
Mendez. Yeah. So we're very proud and honored to be part of the Energy Mendez family of companies that are helping entrepreneurs start and grow and find jobs. So thank you to Energy Mendes. Thank you to Professor Michael McCarthy, international entrepreneur and teacher. And there's much more to come with Mr. Wonderful Professor McCarthy, because we have
Thank you.
many topics that we can cover. So thank you all for
Thank you,
watching.
Al.
It's going to be a great year if you listen to the experts like Professor McCarthy on how to be successful in getting and keeping a great job around the world, because this is a global thing. So I wish you a wonderful week, and we'll be back next week.